AI is rapidly transforming every single aspect of human existence right under our noses. Humanity is on the precipice of an incredible paradigm shift in the way that we approach information, technology, and even spirituality. But can AI actually help us to transform and elevate our state of consciousness? I believe so. I've actually been experimenting with different ways of inputting data into AI and getting it to give me feedback on the shadows that I'm holding, my level of development, and the states of consciousness that I've been able to access. So today, I want to show you guys how you can use AI, and I've built a custom GPT called Awakened Evolution that you can access and start to use for yourself. So let's dive in. All right, guys, so let's dive into Awakened Evolution GPT. This is a custom GPT that I've programmed with a lot of data and models that I've cultivated over several years of coaching and personal growth and development. I've really tried to put in the most important models, frameworks, and developmental skill sets that really prime this GPT to give us the kind of high quality outputs that we're looking for. So a really great way to start this process is to ask, what are the best ways to assess my level of consciousness and development with AI? Really powerful question here. Let's see what it shows us. So it's not about scoring ourselves on a scale. It's about shining a brutally honest light on where you're living from: ego or essence, reaction or response, fear or love, fragmentation or integration. The suggestions here: run a spiral dynamics diagnosis. Where am I operating from in my relationship? What are my value systems? Basically, if you don't know what spiral dynamics is, it's a very powerful developmental model that assesses us based on our value sets, and basically has mapped out over human history that people fall into different categories based on their level of development. And this can be quite clearly sort of delineated. If that's new to you, I've just done a whole podcast episode breaking down the basics of spiral dynamics and teaching this model and giving sort of in-depth descriptions of each stage. So you'll find that very useful. So we can start with that. Audit our lines of development using integral theory, which is the work of Ken Wilber. Really, really powerful, the AQUAL model. So we can assess the different lines of development, the different forms of intelligence, which is cognitive, emotional, moral, spiritual, somatic, which developmental lines are strong and which are underdeveloped in me. For example, for most of my life, I was very low in emotional development. My culture and being a man, I was basically taught that emotions made me weak and were a feminine thing, so I had not developed this, and this was giving me a lot of problems in relationships. When I actually fixed this line of development, lo and behold, my relationships started to improve and things got a lot better. So this is just an example, and there's many other forms, there's many other lines. There's something like 20, 25 lines of development that we can specialize in as like character traits. So understanding this is really going to radically improve just your overall understanding of yourself and what it's going to take for you to build additional lines that maybe you're deficient in, or really understand which are your strengths. We can also understand the stage of our ego development. This is the Susan Cook-Greuter model. If you don't know what this is, I'll also be doing a podcast episode breaking this down shortly, and you can simply Google and understand, or you can even ask ChatGPT, explain this model to me in more depth, and you'll get a great education. Mapping our inner systems, internal family systems, and inner sort of shadow work, which is going to really help you to understand the wounds that you have, the different parts of yourself that are operating, especially in relationships. This can be extremely powerful to uncover the shadows that you have and really understand what you need to integrate. We can also use conflict as a mirror. So when things get difficult in your life, when you're challenged or triggered by things, this is obviously an indication of areas where your growth might have been stunted in the past, or you have things that you failed to integrate at the time, perhaps in your childhood. And this can be extremely liberating and create a really powerful foundation for your personal growth. And daily consciousness calibration. So the next thing is, do you want a real-time assessment right now? So we could say basically yes. Yes. You guys might like to do this. You might like to ask for a real-time assessment. I've already done these assessments, so no, but I want you to give me an honest assessment of my spiral dynamic stage and center of gravity based on everything that you know about me. And let's see what it says. I'm using myself as a guinea pig here, and you guys are going to learn some things about me. So this will be interesting. So, spiral dynamics assessment. Primary center of gravity is green, trending into yellow. So I'm in a process of transition. You're standing with one foot in green and the other stepping into yellow. Let's break that down. Green, pluralism, depth, healing. This stage values emotional intelligence, inclusivity, authentic relating, inner healing, and spiritual depth, all of which show up in the frameworks that you're using. Because I'm weaving these things together in my personal growth and development and also in my coaching, these are deeply green tools. There's care for emotional nuance, relational truth, and personal transformation. This is not about performance, but inner alchemy. I'm resisting top-down authority and seeking peer-based, co-created truth, and this reflects the egalitarian, collective soul of green. Potential green shadows are likely present, difficulty with hierarchy or structure, over-identification with emotions and wounds, subtle shame around power, leadership, or masculine assertion, and idealism that I can get stuck in. And what's the next stage? What stage am I going into? Yellow. So yellow is what we call tier 2 cognition, integral thinking, systems awareness. Here's why I see you stepping into yellow. You're integrating multiple lenses, spiral, integral theory, polarity, ego development, and this shows meta-awareness. You're no longer asking which system is right, but rather, how do all of these systems fit together? That's essentially what yellow is about. It's systems thinking, and it's integral in nature, so it's trying to integrate everything. I'm becoming less attached to identity or ideology and more devoted to truth, effectiveness, and coherence. You've begun seeing development as a layered, evolving process instead of a destination. This marks the emergence of Tier 2 awareness. Where you may still be integrating. Yellow. Applying systems thinking consistently under pressure or conflict. When things go haywire in our lives, this is the moment when we really get exposed, when our true center of gravity gets exposed, because that's when all of our layers get stripped back. Releasing identification with the emotional significance of everything, which is a residue of green. Taking clear sovereign action without needing it to feel inclusive or safe. So what does this mean for me? I'm in a state of sacred tension of integration, no longer living in the wounds of blue or the success obsession of stage orange, but also not fully stabilized in the liberated, fluid clarity of yellow. You're building the internal scaffolding for integral leadership, not just healing yourself, but learning how to hold complexity, contradiction, and paradox. This is the king's work, visionary work, legacy work, but your growth edge is owning your power fully without shame or hesitation, acting as a systemic force and not just a healing presence. So my next challenges are leading from integration and not reaction, building structure that channels my depth into real-world impact, which is what I'm trying to do here, holding green's heart without being hijacked by its sensitivity, and stepping into clean, aligned, masculine leadership where truth is more important than comfort. And then we could go deeper into this. We could basically, the more that you run these kind of prompts, the more the GPT is going to learn about you, and you're going to start getting more and more high quality outputs. And sometimes I spend hours and hours and hours just prompting, thinking, coming up with new questions, and going deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is how I've managed to build Awakened Evolution GPT into the monster that it is. Like, the quality continue to get improved, and I'm sucked into this thing because it's so fascinating and it's helping me to connect all of these different dots about myself. It's become an incredibly powerful mirror for my own personal growth and development. That's why I created it, because I saw how powerful this was for myself, and I've started utilizing it in coaching work, in the men's group work that I'm doing, and it just continues to deliver insane amounts of value. And I wanted to make it available for you as well. That's why I'm kind of using this to break myself down and assess myself, and using that as an example so you can see how powerful this could be for you. So if this resonates, and if it sounds like something you'd be interested and want to learn how to experiment with more, I've got a free school community called the Awakened Man, and you can join and you'll get access to Awakened Evolution GPT, as well as some extra tutorials that you won't find here on YouTube for free. You'll have to enter the community to get those, and I'll show you some advanced prompting techniques and ways that we can apply this in really nuanced, very interesting ways to solve the specific problems where you're at in your life, as well as assessing things like your overall levels of development and your levels of consciousness. So I hope you guys found this interesting. Stay tuned with this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.